Hi. I guess I haven't uploaded in a while. That's fine. Uh, this video is titled "I'm Woman." Already decided the title before recording. Rarely happens, but basically, this is kind of about something that happened today, and also something that's happened in the past to me in over a couple of weeks. Basically, today I was swimming, teaching swimming, and I saw my sister in the pool next to me, and she was crying, but she was trying to hide herself from crying. And being a good big sister, I asked her if she was all right, and she said, "It's okay, I'm fine." And I knew that's what her answer was going to be because she was trying to hide it. She didn't want to be seen crying. And I knew that's what she was doing because that had been me when I was her age, hiding her emotions, hiding my emotions from the world, not wanting to be seen as crying, not wanting to be seen as weak. The reason I feel like I need to talk about this is because there's a lot of misconceptions that hiding your emotions, being not crying, is seen as something. It's seen as a pressure that's only put on males, but it's not. There's a pressure put in me, and yeah, sure, maybe that pressure was originally put in was because I was playing soccer as the only girl on an all-boys team, even though they were mixed, but I was the only girl who ever signed up, and there was only ever enough for one team, so I was it. And I was happy. I was happy playing, but somewhere along the line, the idea of being a princess, even though I hate being when you cry and put down, that's not being a princess. To me, being a princess was always fighting dragons, because that's what I want to do. I want to fight the fucking dragon. And my idea of a princess was much more medieval swords and like battling, and never the modern concept of Disney princess. And I didn't even know those Disney princesses existed at the time. When I was younger, I was the only girl my age to like princesses because I hated Disney princesses from the moment I saw Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella. I'm like, yeah, sure, they were okay movies, but like, and I am talking about animated stuff because like the later one, the live action Cinderella was actually pretty good, but like, when I was like 8, that didn't exist. But that idea of the sword, but those princesses, they weren't my princesses. My princesses fought the dragon, fought the monsters, survived on the run through forests, escaping bandits and assassination attempts and evil empires. Mine fought for their countries. Mine were heroes. Mine were warriors. Because I believe I'm a warrior. And I have been for a long time. And it's not the idea of not crying isn't a dictative put on men. It's a dictative put on warriors. Just all men are expected to be warriors, and that's the misconception. Because not everyone can be warriors, and even if you are a warrior, it's still okay to cry. It's still okay to show emotion. It's just in the heat of battle, you shouldn't be doing that, because in the heat of battle, showing too much emotion could get you killed, and that's why it came in concept, and it's why when in karate I start bawling my eyes out, they're like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? You shouldn't be doing it. And I wasn't crying because I was frustrated or angry, because by that stage, I was actually a lot more emotionally healthy, in the sense I was better at balling up my emotions. But because I was better at balling up my emotions, the physical stress of the body actually fighting and sparring constantly made me start crying. I wasn't actually emotional at that point in time. My body was just releasing all the stressors it can't release in everyday life, because I was in constant fight mode. I was constantly stressed, and actually I was less stressed while I was physically being beaten up and beating someone else up. That isn't healthy. That isn't okay. There's a reason I quit karate. I realized, like, as much as it was a good release, there were better ways, and I needed to take a step back on that to actually explore those better ways and get more mentally healthy, which I'm at a more mentally healthy state. It's one of the reasons I started this, because I wanted to share my more mentally healthy state with the world and be there and express me in a way that would have helped me when I was that mentally healthy. Because when I saw my sister crying, I didn't know what to do, because I knew the way in which she was crying, I would have hated if someone noticed I was crying, because that would have been shameful, and I wouldn't have wanted someone to ask me if I was okay or anything, because then that would have meant I failed at hiding it. But I also knew as a big sister I had to ask the question, because I also knew in the times when I was alone, and the times in which I was by myself, I always asked, why did no one care? Why did no one notice the fact that I was breaking apart at the seams? So as an older sister, I had to say, are you doing all right? Because I knew that meant she would know that I cared and I had noticed. But I also wasn't going to go beyond that because I'm not going to push her boundaries. I just wanted her to know that I had noticed. Because I have another friend who I'm his only female friend, and he's like, oh, I'm his emotional support thing because, like, apparently boys don't support each other emotionally, which, like, is true. But it's like, oh, you wouldn't understand. It's like, no, I do understand. I do understand the concept of bottling up your emotions and not letting anyone else see them. It's just I have better friends because, well, as girls, we're allowed to support each other, and as boys, you're not. But that's actually a problem that's being addressed in the media and getting addressed. But you know what's not getting addressed? The idea that women bottle up their emotions too, because no one knows women also do that. You're expected to be emotional, and guess what that means? It means you're much better at hiding when you're bottling up your emotions, because what you do instead of just being blank-faced and cut off from the world, or embracing that anger, which testosterone tells you to embrace as the alternative for that thing of fueling that fury, instead, because you're supposed to put on a face of happiness. When someone's happy and they can lie significantly well, the only time you're going to notice they're not happy is when they're crying. Sometimes maybe you wouldn't notice, but like the idea that they're not happy, it's a lot easier to fake a smile than you think. I know, I faked one for years. I no longer fake it, but I did. I did. Emotions are complicated and everyone needs help with it. Like, we actually need a whole system change where people need to address the idea that crying is okay. Because it is. Sure, and I still agree with this sentiment that you shouldn't be doing it all the time and that being a wuss isn't acceptable, but at the same time, sometimes it's taken too far and no one realizes it. Sometimes emotions get a better of you, and we need to be teaching people better ways of dealing the emotions at an earlier age. It's less about people telling people they're wrong for overreacting, and more about telling people how to make sure they react appropriately. Because telling them not to react at all will mean it's harder for them to react properly. They will either not react at all or they will overreact, and it will get worse. We need to teach kids better coping mechanisms. We need to teach kids to be better friends. We need to teach kids that emotions are good and healthy, but there are proper ways of dealing with them. Because there are ways. There are ways of dealing with them, and we're not good at teaching that because school's meant for academics. School's bloody meant for academics. School doesn't teach you how to survive in the real world, and that's a problem. That is actually a really serious problem. School doesn't teach you how to fucking do your taxes. School barely teaches. I went to a private school, and I think that might be the only reason we had time for a special course where they taught us how to budget. And I think later on we did in general education, general maths, we did do budgeting as well. But like, and we did learn about compound interest and things. But I feel like there needs to be a greater thing on like, oh, how on earth do you go about doing your taxes? Like that seems like a thing. What are political views? What are, like, debating needs to be in every single school, and kids, it needs to be compulsory at, I think, the start of high school for everyone to do a course in debating. People need to start learning about politics in school because you need politics to survive, and for a thriving democracy to work, people need to be educated. And currently people are educated, but they're not educated in the right things for a thriving democracy to work. Look at America. America's going to hell, not going to hell, going to crap, going down the drain because they don't have the right education. They're not being taught how to seek truth. They're not being taught right from wrong. They're not being taught how to spot a lie. They're not being taught the things democracies need to survive, because it's not just about education, because higher education is either the better free think and more free thinking a person is, and that's good for democracies. But with there's an assumption that the moment you're educated, you're immediately free thinking, and there's a disparity, and that doesn't exist. We need to teach problem solving skills in more than just maths, and we need to teach it from younger ages, and we need to teach it in a social way. We need to not just go problem solving skills in how to solve a problem. We need to go into personal skills and actually teach people ethics from a young age, and teach people philosophy from a young age. People need to understand the concepts which build up our society. And the reason world religions is so good, especially when you learn about Christianity. And I know everyone's like, oh, why should we learn about Christianity? It's on the way out and stuff. And it's like, I'm sorry, we live in a Western civilization. Most of our society is built on Christianity. And even if a lot of what the Christianity that, even the Crusades, that is not Christian, but it is in some way Christianity. It's people claiming to be Christian. You need to understand what society is built on. You need to understand what was going on then. And you need to understand our laws now. And sure, Christianity isn't the running force, but it's also why you need all the other world religions to be learned. And there is a fundamental problem with the way in which the world works currently. And it starts with education, and it starts with emotional education, because I was a 12-year-old girl who didn't know how to cry, and still has trouble crying to this day, because in some ways my tears are all gone because I spent so much time bottling them up. If we can't, we need to start teaching people how to handle emotions. Not to be cold and calculating, but to understand what an emotion is and an appropriate response to an emotion. Because the reason there's so much hurt and pain in this world is because we don't do that. It's the reason that I bottle up my emotions. The reason my sister, because she's a swimmer and she's surrounded by boys, and I think that might be why she's bottling up her emotions. Or maybe that's wrong. But I saw that face and I didn't think I'd ever see it on her. But here we are. There's a thing in the world that people hide their emotions. It's not just males. It's everyone. There is a pressure on society to conform. And when you don't conform, you're gonna start breaking. Because no matter how much I embrace the fact, my motto is literally be yourself. It annoys people because I wanted to be petty, because I wanted to get back at the fact that I was being forced to be someone I'm not. But you still end up falling in. You still end up falling in some ways, in little ways, and it breaks you down. I built myself back up, and I'm doing a better place now. That's the reason I'm doing this, is because, and the reason I'm so focused on Christianity is because Christianity is what saved me. Because Christianity is the only place I can find where you're allowed to be broken. And the only place I've found where there's a path to healing, and the path to healing never ends, because I don't know if I can ever truly be fixed. And it's the only place I feel safe. I don't think there's any other religion where you could safely acknowledge the fact that you're broken, and you probably always will be. It doesn't mean I'm not going to try and be better. I'm not going to try and strive for holiness and perfection, but I just know that I don't know if I'll ever achieve it. Because there are days because I have bad days. where intrusive thoughts don't get the better of me, but they're intrusive. And maybe they get the better of me in the sense that I don't want to do anything that day. And I just be selfish that day. And sure, I don't actually act on the intrusive thought, but I'm definitely not kind. I'm definitely not light into this world. You have bad days, you have good days, and we're all healing, we're all broken, but we all have redemption waiting for us. The world needs to get better at understanding that it's okay not to be okay. That balling up your emotions and being forced by society to hide them isn't just a male thing, that it's an everyone thing. No one wants to be the drama queen. No one wants to be called princess on a sports day because they're too weak to fucking do the activities. I didn't want to be seen as weak. I didn't want to be a disappointment. So I pushed myself and I didn't cry. And I wasn't hurt. I didn't complain. And that makes me a stronger person. And that's built me up and that's given me on some level the confidence to do this. But on some level it also broke me. Meaning there needs to be a better way. You shouldn't have to be broken and build yourself back up together to be strong. That shouldn't be something that has to be done. But maybe it is. And maybe, but if that's what has to happen, then we have to be there to build each other back up again because people are going to get broken if they want to get better. And if people have to get broken to get better, then we have to help each other pick up the pieces. And we have to put them together ourselves because doing it by yourself hurts so much. And in some way I did it by myself and it was through the grace of God, but also on the other hand, it wasn't even necessarily the fact that anyone else helped me, it was the fact that that help was there. And I knew that help was there and that they supported me and that they understood I was broken and that I was on my way to healing. And we need more people just to accept people as they are. Take that first step, be who you are. Don't necessarily ask for help, but accept that you need help. Because I needed help and I got help from God and I didn't really need my friends and family. But the fact that they were willing to be there for help and also the fact that I definitely didn't have the money at the time to go to therapy and therapy did help, kind of. The fact that therapy was there and I was able to go to it and the idea that you didn't have to be on the brink of, you didn't have to be having full-on panic attacks or actually self-harming to be there. You could just be a little bit broken and not want to go any further down that breaking point path. That idea that I was worthy of help honestly healed a lot. And here's something you need to know. If you're watching this, you are worthy of help. If you struggle with your emotions and you're a woman, you're not alone. I did. I think my sister is. If you're a male and you're not alone, you're definitely not the only male that's doing it, and you're definitely not the only and it's not even just your gender who's struggling. Love each other. Try and be kind to each other. I know you can't always do it, but even just it's one thing one day. We're all broken. Let's try and fix each other together. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I need to get that out of my chest. You are worthy.